Thanks for coming. In this session, I'm going to look at collections. It's going to be very much kind of introductory lesson in collections, how they work, how to populate them, what they are, and then that'll lead us on to our next topics. So let's go over quickly what we've done previously, just a brief summary, not every lesson, but we set up some trial environments. We also looked at core CDS concepts, including relationships and building entities, building forms. And then last session, we created some basic Power Apps. We showed you how to get started creating both a model-driven app and a Canvas app. And also went a wee bit deeper and showed you how they can work together to kind of bridge integration gaps. This session, again, like I said, it's going to be on collections. Collections is something that you'll use in Power Apps quite frequently, very frequently. And they're places to store your data within the app. So you can create them from data sources, you can create them manually. But if you want to store data within the context of your Power App, that's where you store them in a collection. And they behave just like a data source. You can create galleries from them, interact with them like a data source. We'll look at populating collections using the collect function, and also empty them using the clear function. I like to think of collections as a bucket that you can fill up and empty and throw away as needed. Because like I said, it's within the context of the app. So when the app is closed, that data is gone. And we'll look at some examples. Let's just get my environment up. I've already created a Power App here because I was having some environment problems earlier. I thought I'd leave it on the screen while I could, so I couldn't even create apps earlier. So I've already created a curl app. What I did to create a curl app, if you go back to the previous session, remember we always create curl apps within solutions. So I went to solution, then new app, new Canvas app. And I'll start just by adding a few controls. I know we haven't looked at controls in Canvas apps in much detail, but I'm just hoping that's something that we can pick up as we go. So there'll be a few controls that you might not have seen here before. I'm going to do a brief summary on them. I don't think there's a need to go through each of the controls and what they do in detail, but if you do need to, or if any questions about the controls, then let me know. But we'll start off by adding a few controls to our canvas, and we'll create a collection just manually, because that's the best way of understanding what a collection is and how they work. So the first thing I'll add is a text input. Text input is a control that it says it's like a field on a form. It takes some text as an input, and then we will add a drop down, and that's an input control. The best way to learn Power Apps is just to, again, have a blank screen and add some controls on there that you can play with and see how they interact with each other. And we'll also add an add picture control. So let's give them some proper names. So character pic. Our drop down will be character color. Our text input will be character name. So we're going to create a collection, a data source made up of several characters. And this color, for the items in the drop down set, you're just going to manually add them in. Red, green, blue. And if we preview that by pressing Alt, we can see we've got red, green, and blue in our drop down list there. So let's add some buttons now. Now that we've got the containers that we're going to input data into, we're going to add some buttons. And the first button we will add, we'll just call, say, add. And on the select of that button, we'll create our collection. We'll create a collection, we populate a collection by using the collect function. And we give our collection a name. Remember, the collection doesn't exist anywhere at the moment. This is us creating it for the first time, so we have to make up a name. And we'll call it character list. And then we have to add items to a connection. And again, our items come inside these curly brackets. And we'll say we'll name the column first. So the first column we're going to say is name. And for the value of that column, we will use our character name text. And when you're using Canvas apps that uses dot notation, I think we've looked at this before. When you click dot, it gives you the list of all the different properties on that control. So at the moment, we've just got, we're going to create a collection that has a name of whatever we put in character text. Add another column now. Oops, sorry, remain within our curly brackets. And we'll call this one color. And to get to the selected property of the character color, we have the name of the control, the dot, and we have selected. It's the selected property we use. And that has a value. So select character color, the drop down, the name of the control, dot selected, dot value will give us the selected value. And we'll add one more, which will be character, we'll call it photo. And for this one, we use this upload image one control. And dot image. This is the one I always get wrong, so I can't remember if it's dot media or dot image, but I'm sure it's dot image. So let's also add a gallery so that we can see our collection. Now if we go to items, we can see that we have a character list collection here. So it's already created the collection in the app, but there's nothing in it yet. And if we go to view and go to collections, that's our table there that we've just created. Again, there's nothing in that yet, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to populate that. So let's add some items into our data. Preview. I'm going to be using PJ masks because that seems to be all I watch just now. So we'll use, if you don't know PJ masks, it's brilliant. It's almost as good as turtles, but for younger people. So Catboy's a character, he's blue. And if we go to, there it is there, Catboy's blue, and we'll click add. And that, you see that adds instantly to our gallery, and it will also add to our collection. So we've got a container now of data with some data in it. And we'll just go ahead and add the other two main characters in PJ masks. One called Owlette, who's red. Add. And one called Gecko, and he's green. And there's Gecko there. So again, you can see them in our collection in here, and you can see them in our gallery as well. So let's say we wanted to remove someone from that, one of these characters from the collection. We will do that, demonstrate that by adding an icon to our gallery. And to add an item to our gallery, if we just click add icons, it'll add it to the page. We don't want that. We want to add it to this item and each item in the gallery. There we go. And that's just an icon, doesn't do anything yet, unless there's a select in the gallery. But we'll change the on select of that icon to remove. And the remove function will remove an item from a collection that contains two properties, or two variables, sorry, the name of the collection and then the item that you want to remove. So the name of the collection is character list, the one that we created. And we can use this item because that selects that whole item that's displayed in the gallery. So let's try that by previewing it, and we'll get rid of outlet. And we can see that she's removed from the gallery and she'll be removed from her collection. So we'll add another button as well. We'll introduce another function within collections. Oops. And we'll call this one clear, because this is what we're going to use when we want to just get rid of every item in the collection. It's called the clear function. And on select of that, it's, as you'd expect, it's clear and then character list. And that will remove and completely empty our collection. And you see they're removed from the gallery and again removed from the collection. So that's really just explaining what a collection is, how you populate it, how you remove items from it, and how you clear it. But you can also create collections from data sources, and so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to create a new screen. Let me do that by clicking the new screen button, and we'll just do a blank screen here again. I've already added a data source because again I had problems earlier with adding data sources, so I couldn't get them, so I'll just keep it there while it's there. So I've added devices. It's the same data that we used in previous sessions. It's in my common data service environment. It's a list of devices, and you can add that data source there if you've got an environment. You click the data and then you just search for your entities, CDS entities, or you can add it as a SharePoint list as the data source as well, or use any other connectors. So let's add some more components, and again we'll add a label first. These are just kind of controls that we're playing with to just try and get some information, try and understand how collections work. And for the label, we'll just make the text on that label count. To that in a second. Oops. And we'll add a button. We'll call that collect. And for the on select property, we're going to create our collection again. So remember, we used collect as previously. We're going to use a new collection, which is, let's call it device list. It's separate from devices because that's what's giving our collection a name. And then we need to tell them what items to get. Now, usually when we did collect before, we were getting one item and then adding it to there, but we're going to grab a load of different items, and they're all going to be devices, and that's where our data source comes from. And so if I click change that count, I'm just going to add to that and put the number of that collection in there. And you can count the number of rows in your collection by using the count rows function. Count device list. That's at 0 at the moment. When I click collect, I'm going to hold down Alt here rather than going to preview. If I hold down Alt, it allows me to preview it within the app. I click collect, it goes off and it gets me 101 devices. And then you can see the collections, I've got device list here, and there's a preview of what I've got in my collection. Now, if I click collect again, it just keeps going and getting that collection. So it'll go up to 102. And every time I push collect, because I'm collecting all the devices again and again, it just keeps adding them to the collection. It doesn't clear them out. You could clear them out with a clear function, but instead of doing that, it's easier just to use this clear collect function. That does two things. It first empties the bucket and then fills it back up again. And that's really handy. So if I click Alt and collect, we should get 101. That's really handy because collections are static data that are within your app. And the reason we use collections is so that we don't need to make so many calls to the database, because we can, populate galleries directly from the data like we did last week. But if you know you've got static data that's not going to change within your app, it's good using this clear collect, either an invisible function on the screen or in your on app start. So that just one call, it loads all the data before your app starts. And this on start function, that's where we can put that collection. So we just put it on start. That means that whenever app starts, first thing I'll do is clear the collection in case there's anything cached, device list, and populate it with devices. And you can also put filters and things like that on here as well. But again, that's something that we'll save for another lesson. I'll look at filtering our data. So let's look at the gallery again and see, just to understand what happens with the clear collect function. So if I create a gallery, we'll just use a vertical gallery again. Oops. As I said, we've got a choice. Our collections appear within our data sources because it behaves just like a data source. But we'll choose device list. And let's just clear it again. So it stays the same. Now we'll add a trash icon to this one again, the exact same as what we did before. And we'll delete it from the collection. So remove this item. Name a collection. And we hit Alt and hit the trash icon. It removes it and deletes it from the collection. And the count goes down to 98 because we're deleting it from the collection. But if I click clear collect again, and this is just to emphasize how they're not synced. If I'm deleting that item, it's only deleting it from our local collection. It's not deleting it from the data source. So that's just one thing to be wary of. And again, what we'll look at is next week is how to update collections and actually save the whole collection to Dataforce, because we need forms and things to do that. But it's just to know that your collection is within the app as opposed to your data source. So that's really it. You can click another way to click collections actually, and just while it's quite a good way that I've just remembered at the kind of last minute, is that you can create collections from a gallery. So which I find quite handy. So if I delete the two items in that gallery, and then I'm going to add another button here, which is like gallery. And on select of that button, we will say clear collect. And the name of our gallery, just gallery 1, gallery 5, sorry. Dot all items. Oops. Yeah, I need to remember the name of my collection that I keep forgetting. So we're going to create a new device gallery. It's going to contain every item within our gallery. And again, we'll just copy that control. One of the great things about Canvas apps is you can just copy and paste controls. We'll change that to gallery. It's got nothing in it just now, and we would expect it to have 99 in it because we collect all items based on that gallery. It just collects all the items within the gallery, so you can filter it down even from within controls within your app. And that's really it for the introduction of collections. I'll pull up my kind of finishing slides. So we can collect collections, we create them using the collect function, and we can add items to them, but collect won't remove them again. So if every time you collect, if you're collecting from a data source, just remember to clear it first, or you'll just end up with a whole load of items in your collection. And so you'll just keep duplicating it each time. Removing them, you'll use the remove function, and you specify the collection name, and then the record. You use this item if you're using the gallery, or you could use a record ID or a record from another collection, and then you clear it using the clear function. And clear collect is the one that we like to use in the start of our apps, so that when we start our app, we go and get all our static standing data, and that saves us making additional calls to the data source as we're using the app. There are other functions that you can use with collections. There's add columns function, allows you to add a column to the specified collection, and then you can populate that column. You can drop columns, so you can get rid of them, rename columns, and show columns. Now, when I've been using CDS, I've not found that much need to use those functions. I have seen a lot of people using them when they're using SharePoint lists, but that's something to look into. There's also what we'll look at next week is saving a collection. We'll look at patch and the for all functions. Now, the reason we're looking at it next week is because next week we're going to look at forums, and we'll look at creating and saving data to our data sources, and we'll do that through collections as well. It's just the next step in the process.